military's always been one of the most awake groups. When 10% of the public on average knew that the Federal Reserve was private, maybe half the military I would talk to, enlisted, commissioned officers, it really didn't matter. They were more awake than the general public. They certainly knew that vaccines were experimental and killing people because they were guinea pigs. Then I would just walk down the street in Austin or Dallas or New York City, and almost every military person would run up, whether they were an officer or not, saying they were a listener. And then it started to be police doing this. And not just some police that recognized me. Most police I would end up walking by or talking to or in a restaurant turned out to start becoming awake. And then now, I was in Hot Springs, Arkansas last year, and they were having a military convention there of different types of specialists, and they were also having a water convention there while I was there. And I ran into most of the water convention people, and they were all aware of fluoride being bad and being a fraud and causing brain damage. And then I ran into the military, and they told me, about 70 to 80% are awake. Well, now a year later, I talk to military, and they go, about 90% are awake. And I mean, they know about the NDAA. They know about the FEMA camps. They know about the gun control. They know about Agenda 21 and Cloward and Piven. They know about the plan to shut off the power plants. They know our government's funding ISIS and said no last year. Remember that? All the military holding up signs saying, I won't fight for Al-Qaeda. I don't know what the establishment does when they've tried to form the military into an army to take over domestically, and they've tried to militarize the police, which they've done, but in the process, it decompartmentalized them, because in the last 5-6 years, James, as you know, we broke a lot of this, but now it's mainstream news. They come to them and actually say, Christians are bad, gun owners are bad, the founding fathers were bad. It's like something you'd expect to see in the Red Dawn movie when they show the re-education camp at the sports stadium with the movie screens going, George Washington was a pig, gun owners are bad, capitalism is bad. The propaganda of the people running things is so horrible, it makes you think they're inept, because this is the stuff bad guys would tell the military. I think their attempt to demonize the liberty movement, James, has totally backfired on them and is strategically one of the biggest defeats they've had. You have a lot of military, current and former. What are they telling you? Do you concur? Do you disagree? What's your view on the military waking up?
Well, everything that I've heard in recent years is in concurrence with what you've seen. I have a lot of readers of my blog who are active duty military, and they're all telling me the same thing, that they have woken up, they have done their homework, they can see what's really going on, and they're no longer falling for the lies that the administration is trying to push. So to me, that indicates two things. One is it's very encouraging because if they ever try to institute martial law, they're not going to be able to do it with American troops. They'll have to bring in overseas troops to try to institute martial law in this country, because the American military is not going to put up with it. There's too many people, especially in the officer corps and the non-commissioned officers, who are fully awake, and they're not going to go along with it. Secondarily, everyone who leaves the military, and very few people are career military. A lot of people just do their 4 to 6 years and they get out. There's a huge number of people who now have combat experience coming home from Iraq, coming home from Afghanistan, who not only are politically aware, but they also have a very advanced skill set in at least small unit tactics and beyond. So that if we ever got into a situation where there was a war of resistance in America, as I pointed out in my novels, all those returning veterans are going to form the core cadre of the resistance. We can depend on our service members, and we should support them individually, but not support the policy.
That's right. They always spin it and say, support whatever the globalist occupied government says. That's not our military. It's like Hitler would say, support the military. Well, that means supporting Hitler. I mean, our own military now trains to take on returning veterans, where 1 week after you get out, you're now enemy number one. And they actually have the Southern Poverty Law Center and others with the FBI come in and give the troops these briefings that are so traitorous. How do the feds not know, James, that these traitorous briefings where they say George Washington wouldn't be welcome in today's Army at Fort Hood? I mean, that took the Army intelligence units there, because I know they've given me a lot of info, and they're for real. They're not just giving me disinfo because I've checked it over the years. When they started doing that, they went from liking me and checking what I said and believing a lot of what I said to going, oh, my God, the government really is at the top alien. It really is totally fake. I just don't know what's wrong with the socialists and the globalists that they think you can call troops in and say your new enemy is America and George Washington. I mean, George Washington's on the Purple Heart. He founded the U.S. Army. I don't know how you do that.
Well, I think the globalists are naive, and all these strategic plans they have are going to come back and bite them, because we still essentially have a liberty-loving nation, and our military reflects that. In the long run, we win, they lose, and that's very encouraging.
All right, James. Well, I'm glad you're getting the same good info I'm getting. But, again, it's not up to the military to get us out of this. It's up to all of us to get ourselves out of this and to be very loud and very aggressive with the establishment and let them know that they're going to get the blame for everything. They may back off, or you can make the decision to go underground and write best-selling books to reach out to people, or you can be on the radio or do your own podcast. Whatever you do, get active, ladies and gentlemen. We have the moral high ground. We've been right over and over again. Not that it's hard. The default is very simple. James Wesley Rawls, survivalblog.com. I want to set you up right now before you're gone with Nico, our great producer, to be on as soon as your book comes out in the next 2 weeks, okay?
Well, thank you very much, Alex. It's been a great pleasure being on, and I pray the 91st Psalm for all your listeners.
Thank you so much. I'll pray it as well. They say that there are no atheists in foxholes, and I got 3 small children. I mean, one's 12, one's 10, and one's 6, and I look at them, and I'm just beyond angry with the globalists and Obama. I mean, they're just dishonorable scum who love to screw things up or create crises or let crises get worse so they get more power. And I'm going to blame some people in the system if anybody else keeps dying from Ebola. You can say, oh, but car wrecks, kill 10,000 a month or whatever. I get it. Though, but this is premeditated. And they're doing it on purpose. And they're letting these people in, and it isn't going to help Africa, and they're lying and turning off the default protections. And, folks, if they get away with this, is what I keep saying. They get away with Fast and Furious and Benghazi and shutting off our power plants and teaching kids 2 + 2 = 5. The sky's the limit. Imagine if I had said 6 months ago they'll bring Ebola into the country. As we speak, the border's wide open. As we speak, anybody can get on a plane from Liberia or Sierra Leone or Guyana or wherever and just fly in here with Ebola. I mean, I am 3.5 hours from Dallas. That stuff's already spread. This latest nurse has been going all over the country. Folks, if it killed 10% of people, I'd be concerned about it. It kills 70. One of my kids gets this. There's a 70% chance they're going to die. All because the filthy CDC. All because our government wants open borders. They are so evil. They would fund Al-Qaeda to kill 300,000+ Syrians, most of them Christians, blowing up churches, chopping their heads off. They're not fighting them. ISIS is spreading everywhere. The U.S. and Turkey are giving air support to them, bombing any other rebel groups that aren't radical jihadis. That came out in the news yesterday. Oh, there's a lot of friendly fire, and I predicted that would happen. It's all staged. It's all staged. And our military, yeah, they woke up. What are they going to do by themselves, though? Not following orders, get court-martialed? I mean, it's coming down to that point. I want to take your phone calls on just any issue you want to raise, but Ebola, I think, is front and center. Or we should say this, what else are we not looking at? 2 questions. What's your take on Ebola? Are you angry about it? What should we do? But also, a whole other area of questions. What are we not looking at while this is going on? That's a big question. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. We also have coming up, angry McCain admits meeting with ISIS, scolds Rand Paul for not knowing terrorist. Remember, that was back in September. Well, we have a new video sent to us by a listener that I think McBreen put together with some other clips of us giving some history where McCain caught lying again. That's coming up about 45 after we take time to take your calls. But 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. But, man, I am just beyond angry at this point. I've never felt like this before. I mean, I am just fed up. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. I'm beyond angry. I'm telling you, globalists, you're not going to get away with the Ebola pandemic, okay? You let this spread, we're going to make sure you go to prison. And you know you're going to go, all of you scum. I want to go to Josh in Tennessee, then Bill, Aaron, Susie, John, and others. Josh is a listener on WNFZ 94.3 FM. And Josh, thank you for calling in. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. Just, want to go over the same discuss, that the American people have this Ebola keeps spreading like it's no big deal. They keep shipping these people back and forth. They let them into the country knowing. Then you've got all these other viruses that are coming up that, they don't know where they came from. The enterovirus 68D that's infecting kids and respiratory section, it's just ludicrous. And what are they using this to cover up what's really going on? Open borders, the ISIS thing, they're just trying to use that to control the oil and, basically have us scared for our lives eventually over a war and an outbreak of Ebola.
Let's think about that. Our government publicly for 4 years funded al-Qaeda, changed their name to ISIS. Our own military wouldn't support bombing Assad to help them. So now Turkey is bombing and saying it's about bringing down Assad. And al-Qaeda under ISIS is marching towards Damascus. That's how controlled our media is that our government is actually behind ISIS while claiming they're fighting them so they can chop Christians' heads off. It's so immoral. It's so evil. It's just over the top. I mean, I can't even believe it's this crazy.
To get the Christians to back the war, saying, hey, they're out here killing Christians, and at the same time, they're setting it up to happen. They're funding them.
Exactly. No, that's full spectrum brainwashing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly what it is. They're getting the American people that live under a rock and aren't paying attention and listen to everything they see and hear on the, TV, which is ridiculous. You give everybody a smartphone, they all walk around with their heads down. Nobody ever looks up to see the big picture. I got planes flying over the top of my house all the time, spraying chemtrails. What the heck is that? Nobody looks up.
I'm telling you, we are living in a science fiction movie, brother. Good to hear from you. I am just so upset about this. The Ebola, clearly, they're going to allow it to spread all over the place. And we said months ago what they were doing would let it spread. Oh, shut up, Alex, you're evil. Think about it. So few people challenge these criminals that the White House has had 2 articles last week attacking yours truly, saying I'm crazy, I'm a fearmonger, because I'm pointing out they won't stop the flights. Who do they choose to attack? I mean, can you imagine what it's like to have the known White House front watching and listening to you? It doesn't scare me. It just creeps me out what traitors they are, how horrible they are. Do the people at Media Matters really want Ebola to spread? I mean, do you really want to be villains? What's wrong with you people? Bill in Iowa, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I'm just calling. I wanted to apologize to you. I didn't quite believe you when you said that ISIS had chemical weapons, but it is fact that ISIS or al-Qaeda, they definitely have chemical weapons. The major media is now reporting that, and what they're saying, though, is that these weapons were captured in small Iraqi towns. But, yeah, they're actually, we know that they were given these weapons from Saudi Arabia.
No, the UN admitted it's actually come out that Saudi Arabia is running the whole show and has given them the chemical weapons, and they launched them on Assad 3 times to blame him. I mean, imagine Obama goes, if you use chemical weapons, which you've never used, I will invade you. And then on the date of his speech a year later, they launch a chemical attack and blame it on Assad and didn't even care. Al-Qaeda is so uncontrolled. See, it's like putting black widows in somebody's bed. They don't run them. They turn them loose. They shot video of themselves launching the chemical attacks and did their little video to show off to each other. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's just that that's how Jerome Corsi at WorldNet Daily and InfoWars and I knew it was them, because they made videos bragging. Our media just ignored it. See how it's not like I was some sleuth or Sherlock Holmes. Do you know that's why this is so frustrating, brother? You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Well, you know, I've been discredited myself for saying things, and it boils your blood. I mean, it is what it is. But all you can do is just keep pushing on. And you got definitely a dedicated listener for me from now on, Alex.
Well, God bless you, brother. Listen, I wish I was wrong. I don't wish Assad launched a chemical attack. But I just wish our government wasn't so evil. It funds al-Qaeda, launches chemical attacks, blames it on the innocent people fighting for their lives. I mean, whoa. Whoa, the government's letting Ebola patients come in, letting people fly in. It's spreading. We're living in a Twilight Zone movie. I know I say this probably every hour, but I'm going to say this again. The government for 3 years teaches 2 + 2 = 5 in public schools. They got a bunch of other math things where it's, I mean, it's just like, do I have to explain how screwed up that is? It is crazy. We have a mentally ill, insane elite, okay? They are nuts. They're setting the